The galaxy was quiet. For 300 years, 7 great species had shared the stars without major war. The Galactic Confederation kept peace through careful borders and even more careful politics. Each species knew their place in the grand order of things. Humans were the newest members of this club. 50 years ago, they had surprised everyone by building ships that could travel faster than light. The Confederation had welcomed them with the kind of smile reserved for useful pets. Humans got a small corner of space near the galaxy's edge, far from anything important. Captain Hyun-woo flew his patrol ship through the empty space between stars. His job was simple: watch for pirates, check shipping lanes, and file reports that nobody read. Today felt different, though. His sensors kept picking up strange energy readings from human space. The readings made no sense. They showed massive power sources moving around human systems, but the signatures didn't match any known technology. Hyun-woo had studied engineering before joining the Confederation Navy. These numbers were impossible. He filed his report as always, sending it to Admiral Veltar at Confederation Command. Veltar was a hegemony officer, one of the proud species that considered themselves the galaxy's natural rulers. The Admiral's response came back within an hour. Ignore human activities. They lack the technology to threaten anyone. Focus on real security concerns. Hyun-woo stared at his screen. Energy readings were real. Something big was happening in human space, and nobody wanted to hear about it. Meanwhile, on the human world of New Seoul, Fleet Admiral Da-eun walked through the most secret facility in human space. Shipyard Titan hung in the shadow of New Seoul's largest moon, hidden from prying sensors by careful engineering and deliberate misdirection. The shipyard was enormous, larger than most human cities. But it held only one ship, and that ship was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Status report," Da-eun said to Dr. Woo Jin, the project's chief engineer. Woo Jin looked tired. He had been working on Project Titan for 8 years. Ever since, the Confederation had made it clear that humans were expected to stay quiet and grateful for their small piece of space. "We're ready for final tests," Woo Jin said. "All systems check out. The Indomitable is everything we hoped it would be." Da-eun nodded. Through the shipyard's main window, she could see their achievement. The Indomitable stretched 12 kilometers from bow to stern. It was not beautiful in the way alien ships were beautiful. Alien vessels looked like art, smooth curves and elegant lines that spoke of advanced civilizations and refined tastes. The Indomitable looked like a weapon. Every surface served a purpose. Armor plating thick enough to stop asteroid impacts, weapon batteries that could level cities, engine systems powerful enough to move a small moon. It was the product of human military thinking. Overwhelming firepower backed by redundant systems, and the hard lessons learned from centuries of war on Earth. "The other powers don't understand us," Da-eun said quietly. "They think technology means building the most elegant solution. We know it means building something that works when everything goes wrong." Woo Jin smiled grimly. "They're about to learn the difference." The communication alert broke their conversation. Da-eun's aide, Lieutenant Tae-young, appeared on the screen, with news that made her blood run cold. "Admiral, we've received an ultimatum from the hegemony. They're demanding we surrender our asteroid mining rights in the Kepler sector. They claim we're exceeding our designated resource allocation and must comply within 72 hours. Da-eun felt something cold settle in her stomach. The Kepler sector asteroids were the foundation of human industry in space. Without those resources, human colonies would slowly starve. The hegemony knew this, of course. They were testing human resolve, expecting the usual scared compliance. "What forces are they deploying?" she asked. "Long-range sensors show a battle group assembling at the sector border. 40 ships, including 3 heavy cruisers. War Commander Zethlos is in command." Da-eun knew Zethlos by reputation. He was ambitious, ruthless, and convinced that humans were too primitive to resist properly. The perfect choice for what the hegemony saw as a simple intimidation mission. Any word from the Confederation Council? Tae-young's expression said everything. They've expressed concern and suggested we find a diplomatic solution that respects all parties' interests. Translation: humans were on their own, just as they had always been. Daeun looked out at the Indomitable again. For 8 years, humanity's best minds had worked in secret, building something the galaxy wasn't ready for. They had taken human military doctrine, the idea that war was too important to fight fairly, and applied it to technologies the aliens had shared freely, thinking humans too backward to use them properly. The aliens were wrong about many things. Send a message to Commander Yunji, Daeun said. Tell her the Indomitable is cleared for active duty, and send orders to all colonial governors. Begin evacuation of non-essential personnel from border systems. Yes, Admiral. Are we really going to fight them? Daeun thought about the question. The hegemony had 40 ships crewed by experienced warriors. They had 3 centuries of military tradition and technology refined over millennia. They had every advantage except one. They didn't know what humans had built in the dark. We're not going to fight them, Daeun said. We're going to show them what real military engineering looks like. As the orders went out across human space, civilian ships began moving away from likely battle zones. But not all ships were running. Deep in space, massive drives began warming up. Power systems that had never been tested at full capacity came online. Weapon systems that existed only in classified reports started their activation sequences. The Indomitable was no longer humanity's secret. Soon it would be their announcement to the galaxy that the age of human patience was over. In his patrol ship, Captain Hyunwoo watched his sensors as energy signatures in human space spiked beyond anything he had ever recorded. Whatever the humans had been building, it was moving. And it was headed toward the Kepler sector, where 40 hegemony ships waited to teach humanity a lesson about knowing their place. The galaxy was about to discover that some lessons worked both ways. The hegemony battle group dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler sector like a pack of hunting predators. 40 warships in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the confidence of a species that had ruled the galaxy's military. Affairs for 2 centuries. War Commander Zethlos stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory, and smiled at the tactical display. The humans had deployed a pathetic defense force, maybe 8 small ships clustered around the main asteroid processing facility. It was almost insulting how little resistance they were offering. Open communications with the human facility, he ordered. The main screen flickered to show Governor Tae-hyung, the human administrator for the Kepler sector. The man looked nervous but stubborn, which Zethlos found amusing. Humans always tried to look brave even when they were obviously terrified. This is War Commander Zethlos of the Hegemony Fleet, he announced. You have 6 hours to evacuate this sector and transfer all mining operations to Hegemony oversight. Refuse, and we will remove you by force. Tae-hyung's response was exactly what Zethlos expected. War Commander, this sector is recognized human territory under Confederation law. We request that you withdraw immediately and settle this matter through diplomatic channels. Diplomatic channels have been exhausted, Zethlos replied. Your species has exceeded its resource allocation. The hegemony will correct this imbalance. What he didn't say was that this was about much more than asteroids. The hegemony leadership had decided that humans were getting too comfortable, too confident. A quick demonstration of superior firepower would remind them of their proper place in the galactic order. From his neutral observation ship, Captain Hyunwoo watched the confrontation with growing unease. His sensors were still picking up those impossible energy signatures from deeper in human space, and they were getting stronger. Something massive was approaching the Kepler sector, but his equipment couldn't identify what it was. The readings made no sense. Whatever was coming was larger than a space station, but moving faster than any ship in the galactic databases. Hyun-woo had served in the Confederation Navy for 15 years, and he had never seen anything like it. "Sir," his navigation officer reported, "massive gravitational distortion detected at the system's edge. Something very large is about to drop out of hyperspace." Zethlos noticed it too. His tactical officer was frowning at readings that didn't match any known ship classification. "War Commander, we're detecting an unknown contact approaching from the outer system. Mass readings are unusual." "Define unusual," Zethlos demanded. "Sir, the computer estimates the contact massing at approximately 50 million tons. That can't be correct." Zethlos laughed. "Obviously. No ship masses 50 million tons. It's probably an asteroid with a hyperspace beacon. Focus on the human defenders." But as the minutes passed, the readings became impossible to ignore. Whatever was approaching was definitely a ship, and it was definitely massive beyond anything in the galactic records. When it finally dropped out of hyperspace, every sensor operator in the system forgot their training and simply stared. The Indomitable materialized against the starfield like a mobile mountain, 12 kilometers of angular gray metal, bristling, with weapons emplacements and armored beyond anything the galaxy had ever conceived. It dwarfed the largest hegemony ships by a factor of 10, and it moved with the purposeful grace of something built for war. "By the void," Zethlos whispered. "What is that thing?" His tactical officer was frantically checking databases that had no answers. "Sir, it's a human ship. But the mass readings show it's larger than our entire battle group combined. Commander," Yunji sat in the Indomitable's command center, watching 40 hegemony ships spread out like toys in front of her massive vessel. She had trained for this moment for 3 years, but seeing it actually happen was still surreal. "Communications," she ordered. "Open a channel to the hegemony flagship." The main screen showed War Commander Zethlos, and Yunji was pleased to see that his arrogant confidence had been replaced by barely controlled shock. Good. Fear was the beginning of wisdom. "This is Commander Yunji of the Human Defense Force ship Indomitable," she said calmly. "You are in violation of human space. You have 30 seconds to withdraw your forces or face the consequences." Zethlos recovered quickly, though she could see sweat on his forehead. "Human, your ship is impressive, but you are outnumbered 40 to 1. Surrender now, and we might allow you to survive." Yunji almost smiled. The war commander was thinking like a traditional fleet commander, where numbers mattered more than individual ship capability. He didn't understand what human engineers had. "Built. 20 seconds, she said. "This is ridiculous," Zethlos snarled. "All ships, prepare to engage. Target that monstrosity and show these humans the price of defiance." 10 seconds. The hegemony ships began moving into attack formation, their weapons powering up. Standard fleet doctrine. Spread out to avoid concentrated fire. Coordinate attacks to overwhelm point defenses. Rely on speed and maneuverability to avoid return fire. "Time's up," Yunji said. What happened next redefined galactic warfare in 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The Indomitable's point defense systems activated first. Unlike the elegant energy weapons favored by most species, humans had designed their ship around the principle of overwhelming firepower. Thousands of projectile weapons opened fire simultaneously, creating a wall of metal that no known technology could penetrate. Half the hegemony fleet simply disintegrated in the first 30 seconds. Ships that had terrorized pirates and rebels for decades were torn apart by weapons that fired faster and hit harder than anything they had been designed to face. The surviving ships scattered, trying to use their speed advantage, but the Indomitable's main batteries were just warming up. Energy weapons the size of city blocks began tracking targets, each shot carrying more destructive power than most ships' entire arsenals. The hegemony cruiser Righteous Fury exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from 3 star systems. Away, The destroyer Fierce Wind simply vanished, vaporized so completely that its debris field looked like cosmic dust. "Retreat!" Zethlos screamed. "All ships, emergency hyperspace jump! Get us out of here!" The survivors fled into hyperspace, their emergency transmissions flooding galactic communication networks with panicked reports of an impossible human warship. In 4 minutes, the most powerful battle group in hegemony space had been reduced to burning wreckage and traumatized survivors. Commander Yunji watched the last enemy ship disappear into hyperspace, then turned to her communications officer. "Send a message to Fleet Admiral Da Yun," she said. "Mission accomplished. The galaxy now knows we exist." Captain Hyun Woo sat in his observation ship, staring at sensor readings that would haunt his dreams. The human ship had not just won. It had demonstrated a level of military capability that rendered every existing fleet doctrine obsolete. As he watched the Indomitable begin cleanup operations, retrieving escape pods and securing the asteroid facilities, Hyun-woo realized that everything had changed. The careful balance of power that had kept the galaxy peaceful for 3 centuries had just been shattered by a species everyone had dismissed as primitive. The humans had been building something in the dark, and now the galaxy would never sleep soundly again. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within hours of the Kepler sector battle, every major communication network was buzzing with panicked reports, sensor recordings, and increasingly wild theories about what humanity had unleashed. On Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Confederation, the High Council convened in emergency session. 7 species representatives who had spent decades managing the careful balance of galactic politics now faced a reality that made their diplomatic skills worthless. Chancellor Mordan of the Scientific Collective stood before the assembled delegates, his usually calm demeanor cracked by what he had seen in the battle recordings. "The sensor data is clear," he announced. "Humanity has deployed a warship massing 50 million tons and carrying enough firepower to destroy a planetary defense grid. Our databases contain no reference for such technology." Ambassador Yu Na sat in the human delegation area, watching. Species representatives who had barely acknowledged her existence for 5 years, now hanging on every word from the human section. The change was remarkable and deeply satisfying. Admiral Veltar of the Hegemony Military Command was the first to speak, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "This is an act of war against the established galactic order. Humanity must be forced to surrender this weapon before they destabilize everything we have built." Representative Kethvar of the Trade Syndicate disagreed. "Perhaps we should consider why humanity felt the need to build such a ship. The hegemony's ultimatum was hardly diplomatic. The ultimatum was standard resource management," Veltar snapped. "Humans were exceeding their allocation. The proper response was compliance, not this." Yuna stood slowly, feeling every eye in the chamber focus on her. For years, she had been the representative of a minor species, expected to listen politely while others made decisions about human fate. Today, she spoke for a power that could crack worlds. "The proper response," she said quietly, "was for the Confederation to honor its own treaties. Human space was attacked by a hegemony fleet without council authorization. We defended ourselves." "You obliterated 40 ships," Veltar roared. "We could have obliterated 400, Yuna replied, her voice never rising above conversational level. The Indomitable showed remarkable restraint. The chamber fell silent. The implications of her words settled over the delegates like a cold blanket. If humanity had shown restraint, what would their full capability look like? Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the reactions varied wildly between species and factions. In hegemony space, War Commander Zethlos stood before his superiors in the high command, his career in ruins and his confidence shattered. The same officers who had praised his aggressive tactics now looked at him like he was diseased. "How many ships do they have?" demanded Supreme Commander Yothron. "We don't know, sir," Long-range sensors detected only one vessel, but human space has been shielded from our surveillance for months. They could have dozens of these things. The thought terrified every hegemony leader in the room. Their entire military doctrine was based on technological superiority and coordinated fleet actions. A single human ship had made both advantages worthless. "Begin immediate fleet mobilization," Yothron ordered. "If humanity has more of these weapons, we must strike before they can deploy them." In the laboratories of the scientific collective, Dr. Zentar analyzed every scrap of sensor data from the battle, trying to understand how humans had achieved the impossible. "Their weapon systems violate known energy efficiency laws," he told his research team. "The power requirements alone should make their ship impossible to operate." His assistant, Dr. Mel Ron, highlighted sections of the tactical analysis. "Perhaps they've solved the plasma containment problem differently. Human engineering philosophy seems to favor brute force over elegance." "Brute force that works," Zentar noted grimly. "While we've been perfecting beautiful solutions, they've been building ugly ones that win battles." The implications were staggering. If human technology could bypass fundamental limitations that had shaped galactic civilization for millennia, then everything the collective thought they knew was wrong. In human space, the reaction was more measured but no less significant. On Shipyard Titan, Dr. Wu Jin monitored reports from across the galaxy while overseeing the final construction of 7 more Colossus-class vessels. "The galaxy is mobilizing," reported Intelligence Officer Min Ho, who had been tracking communications. "Intercepts. The hegemony is calling up their reserve fleets. The collective is pouring resources into crash research programs. Even the trade syndicate is hiring mercenary squadrons." Wu Jin nodded without looking up from his work. "Expected. The question is whether they'll try diplomacy first or go straight to violence." Admiral Da Yun wants to know about the construction timeline. "The Resolute and Unstoppable will be ready within a week. The others need another month for full weapon integration." Wu Jin finally looked up from his console. "How long do we have?" Minho's expression was grim. "Hegemony fleet movements suggest they're planning something big, possibly a full invasion of human space within 30 days. Then we'd better work faster." Back on Nexus Prime, the emergency council session had devolved into barely controlled chaos. Species representatives who had cooperated for centuries now saw each other as potential threats in a galaxy where humans held the ultimate trump card. "I propose immediate economic sanctions against humanity until they agree to international oversight of their military capabilities," suggested Representative Zarwin of the Peaceful Worlds Coalition. "And I propose we recognize that the balance of power has shifted permanently," countered Trade Syndicate leader Kethvar. "Smart species will adapt to the new reality." Ambassador Yu Na listened to the arguments with growing amusement. These same leaders had dismissed human requests for expanded territory, increased resource allocations, and greater representation in galactic affairs. Now they were debating how to control a species that could end their civilizations overnight. "If I may," she interjected during a brief lull in the shouting, "humanity appreciates the Council's concern for galactic stability. We remain committed to peaceful coexistence with all species." "Under what terms?" demanded Chancellor Morton. Yuna smiled. "Under the same terms we've always proposed: equal treatment, fair resource allocation, and respect for human sovereignty. The only difference is that now you have excellent reasons to take those proposals seriously." Her words sent another chill through the chamber. The humans weren't making new demands. They were simply ensuring their old demands would finally be heard. As the council session adjourned in confusion and barely contained panic, Captain Hyun-woo completed his latest intelligence report from the neutral zone. His analysis was simple and terrifying. Humanity had not revealed a new weapon, they had revealed a new kind of warfare. The careful treaties and balanced power structures that had kept the galaxy stable for 3 centuries were meaningless when one species could build ships that made fleets obsolete. The age of diplomatic solutions was ending. The age of human solutions was about to begin. In her private quarters on Nexus Prime, Ambassador Yuna looked out at the city lights below and thought about the message she had received from Fleet Admiral Dae Yoon. Phase 1 complete. Proceeding to Phase 2. The galaxy is about to learn that one ship was just the beginning. The humans had been patient for 50 years, accepting their small corner of space and their limited role in galactic affairs. That patience was ending, and the universe would never be the same. War Commander Zethlos stood before the Hegemony's Grand Assembly, his shame burning like acid in his throat. The same chamber where he had once been praised for military excellence now felt like a courtroom where he was on trial for incompetence. Explain. To us, demanded Supreme Commander Yothran, how 40 ships were destroyed by a single human vessel. Zethlos had replayed the battle 1,000 times in his mind, each viewing making the defeat more humiliating. Supreme Commander, their ship was unlike anything in our tactical databases. Our weapons barely scratched its hull, while their return fire was... He struggled for words. Overwhelming. Overwhelming, repeated High Admiral Corthan with disgust. You allowed yourself to be overwhelmed by primitives who learned to fly between stars 50 years ago. With respect, Admiral, these are not the primitives we thought we knew. Their technology appears to have advanced far beyond our intelligence estimates. The Grand Assembly erupted in angry voices. 3 centuries of military dominance had made the hegemony arrogant, but they were not stupid. The sensor records from Kepler sector showed a level of human capability that threatened everything they had built. Supreme Commander Yothran restored order with a gesture. The question before us is simple. Do we accept this humiliation and negotiate with humanity from a position of weakness, or do we act while we still can? War Commander Zethlos felt his heart racing. He knew what Yothran was suggesting, and the implications terrified him. Supreme Commander, if humanity has more ships like the one we encountered, intelligence suggests they have only the one vessel, interrupted Fleet Admiral Morkel. Our sources indicate most human shipbuilding is still focused on civilian vessels and small patrol craft. The ship that destroyed your fleet appears to be a unique prototype. Zethlos wanted to argue, but his failure at Kepler sector had cost him the right to question strategy. Still, he had seen the Indomitable's capabilities firsthand. Even if it was unique, it could defend multiple systems simultaneously with its firepower. I propose Operation Cleansing Dawn, announced Yothran. A coordinated strike against all major human colonies while their super ship is away from Earth. We mobilize every available vessel, 300 ships in total, and hit them simultaneously across multiple systems. The scale of the proposed operation was staggering. The hegemony had never deployed so many ships at once, even during the border wars a century ago, but the logic was sound. If humanity had only one impossible ship, then attacking everywhere at once would force them to choose which worlds to save. The risks are enormous, warned High Admiral Corthan. If we fail, we could lose our entire fleet. If we do nothing, Yothran replied, we lose our entire empire. Humanity has demonstrated that they can build weapons that make our technology obsolete. We must act before they build more of them. The vote was closer than Zethlos expected, but fear won over caution. Operation Cleansing Dawn was authorized with a mandate that chilled him: complete destruction of human military capability and the occupation of all human worlds. Across the galaxy, Captain Hyunwoo continued his patrols in the neutral zone, watching fleet movements that defied every treaty and protocol the Confederation had established. Hegemony ships were converging from across their territory, creating the largest military buildup in galactic history. The official explanation was routine training exercises, but Hyunwoo's sensors told a different story. 300 warships assembling in attack formations was not routine anything. It was preparation for genocide. He faced the hardest decision of his life. His oath was to the Confederation, to maintain neutrality and report what he observed. But his conscience demanded action when he was watching the setup for mass murder. The encrypted message he sent to human space was brief. Massive hegemony fleet mobilization detected. 300 ships. Attack likely within 72 hours. Multiple targets probable. Recommend immediate defensive measures. After sending the warning, Hyunwoo set course for the Galactic Rim. Whether humanity survived the coming storm or not, he could never return to Confederation space. He had chosen his side. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Da Yun received the warning in her secure command bunker beneath the Pacific Ocean. She had been expecting something like this, the hegemonies. Pride would never accept the humiliation at Kepler Sector without retaliation. Confirm our fleet positions, she ordered her staff. The Indomitable is currently patrolling the outer colonies, reported Captain So Young. Estimated transit time to Earth is 6 days at maximum speed. Other Colossus-Class vessels? 7. Ships nearing completion at Shipyard Titan. The Resolute and Unstoppable could be deployed within 18 hours if we skip final system checks. Daeon studied the tactical display showing human space. 23 colonies spread across 15 star systems, each one a potential target for hegemony aggression. The Indomitable could defend perhaps 3 systems effectively, but that would leave the others vulnerable. Intelligence assessment? Major Jin Woo stepped forward with the analysis she had been dreading. Long-range sensors confirm massive fleet movements in hegemony space. Conservative estimate is 200 ships, but it could be as many as 400. They're positioning for simultaneous attacks across multiple systems. The mathematics were brutal. Even if every human defense platform and patrol ship fought perfectly, they would be overwhelmed in hours. The colonies would burn, and Earth itself would face invasion by forces that outnumbered humanity's entire military by 10 to 1. Unless the galaxy learned that humanity had not built one impossible ship. Da-un looked around the command center, at officers who had worked in secret for 8 years to reach this moment. They had built humanity's defense knowing that someday it would be tested by species with centuries of military experience and technology refined across millennia. Send activation orders to all Colossus-class vessels, she said quietly. Full. Deployment authorization. It's time to show the galaxy what we really built in the dark. Captain So Young hesitated. Admiral, revealing our full capabilities will change everything. There will be no going back to peaceful coexistence. The hegemony ended peaceful coexistence when they decided to commit genocide, Da-un replied. Now they get to live with the consequences. The orders went out across human space on channels so classified that most of humanity's own government didn't know they existed. Deep space facilities that appeared on no official charts began powering up systems that had been hidden for years. Shipyards that supposedly built civilian transports revealed their true purpose. Dr. Wu Jin received the activation order at Shipyard Titan and felt his hands shake as he began the final startup sequences. 7 more ships, like the Indomitable, were about to emerge from their hidden construction bays, each one representing the pinnacle of human military engineering. Beginning final system checks on all vessels, he announced to his team. We have 18 hours to deploy the fleet that will determine humanity's survival. In the hegemony fleet staging areas, 300 ships prepared for the largest military operation in recent galactic history. Crews that had never fought anything more dangerous than pirates or rebels checked weapons that could level cities and shields that could withstand planetary bombardments. War Commander Zethlos, given a chance to redeem himself by leading one of the attack groups, stared at the tactical projections showing human colonies marked for destruction. Part of him hoped the humans would surrender when they saw the overwhelming force arrayed against them. But he remembered the cold confidence in Commander Yunji's voice when she had given his fleet 30 seconds to withdraw. Humans who could build the Indomitable were not the type to surrender easily. All ships report ready for hyperspace transition, his tactical officer announced. Very well, Zethlos said. Signal the fleet. Operation Cleansing Dawn is now active. May the Void have mercy on us all. The hegemony fleet jumped to hyperspace. 300 ships carrying enough firepower to sterilize worlds. But in human space, 8 ships that the galaxy didn't know existed were preparing to teach the universe a lesson about underestimating humanity's capacity for violence. The war that would reshape galactic civilization was about to begin. The 8 Colossus-Class warships dropped out of hyperspace simultaneously across hegemony territory, appearing like dark angels of destruction above worlds that had never known the fear of invasion. In a single, coordinated moment, humanity revealed that the Indomitable had not been their secret weapon. It had been their announcement. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Commander Yunji coordinated the largest military operation in human history. Her tactical display showed 7 sister ships positioned at strategic points throughout hegemony space, each one carrying enough firepower to level a civilization. "All ships report successful emergence," announced Lieutenant He Jin. "Targets acquired and weapon systems online." Yunji nodded grimly. "Signal the fleet. Execute Protocol 7. Show them what human military doctrine looks like when the gloves come off." Above the hegemony capital world of Supremacy Prime, the Resolute materialized in orbit like a metallic moon. Captain Sang-min watched through his viewports as the planet's surface cities glittered in the afternoon sun, completely unaware that death hung over them in the form of 12 kilometers of human engineering. "Open communications to the planetary government," he ordered. The response came within minutes, panicked voices speaking over each other as hegemony leaders tried to understand what was happening. The sight of a ship larger than their orbital defense platforms had paralyzed their entire command structure. "This is Captain Sang-min of the Human Defense Force vessel Resolute," he announced calmly. "Your government has authorized genocidal attacks against human colonies. You have exactly 1 hour to recall your fleet and surrender unconditionally, or this world will burn." The hegemony planetary governor, a proud warrior named Keth Mole, tried to maintain his dignity. "Human, you are 1 ship against an entire star system. Our defense platforms alone," Sang-min gestured to his weapons officer. A single shot from the Resolute's main battery vaporized the largest orbital defense station in a flash of light visible from the planet's surface. The explosion lit up the night side of Supremacy Prime like a second sun. 59 minutes, Sang-min said quietly. Across hegemony space, similar scenes played out as human ships demonstrated the futility of traditional defenses against Colossus-class firepower. The Unstoppable appeared above the military staging world of Fortress Gamma, where War Commander Zethlos had launched his original attack on the Kepler sector. Captain He Wan watched as hegemony defense fleets scrambled to intercept her ship, their crews brave but doomed. 80 ships moved to attack positions around her vessel, following tactics designed for fighting enemies their own size. "Incoming transmission from the hegemony fleet commander," reported her communications officer. "Put him through." Fleet Admiral Morkel appeared on the screen, his expression mixing fear with desperate bravado. "Human vessel, you are outnumbered 80-1. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." Heywan almost smiled. The hegemony still didn't understand what they were facing. "Admiral, you have 30 seconds to order your ships to stand down. After that, I will consider them hostile targets. You cannot possibly fight all of us. Watch me." What followed became known as the 4-hour war, though actual combat lasted less than 30 minutes. Captain Heywan's ship engaged 80 hegemony vessels simultaneously and systematically destroyed them with the methodical precision of a machine designed for exactly this purpose. The Unstoppable's point defense systems created an impenetrable barrier of projectile fire that disintegrated incoming missiles and torpedoes. Her main batteries, weapons the size of city blocks, fired with careful deliberation to ensure each shot eliminated multiple targets. The hegemony fleet fought bravely, but bravery was useless against engineering that treated entire fleets as individual targets. Ships that had ruled the galaxy's space lanes for decades were torn apart by weapons that fired faster, hit harder, and penetrated deeper than anything they had been designed to face. Admiral Morkel's flagship lasted longest, its heavy armor and advanced shields absorbing several hits before the Unstoppable's focused fire overwhelmed its defenses. The ship broke apart in a series of explosions that could be seen from 3-star systems away. When the battle ended, 80 hegemony ships had been reduced to debris fields and emergency beacons. The Unstoppable hung motionless in space, its weapon systems already recharging for the next engagement. Meanwhile, the hegemony's attack fleet, 300 ships strong, was discovering that humanity had prepared for their arrival. As they emerged from hyperspace above human colonies, they found something impossible waiting for them. The Indomitable intercepted the main attack force at New Busan, appearing between the hegemony fleet and the planet, like an avenging god. War Commander Zethlos, leading one of the attack groups, felt his blood turn to ice as he recognized the ship that had destroyed his fleet at Kepler Sector. "All ships, emergency withdrawal," he ordered. "We abort the mission." But retreat was not an option. The Indomitable had positioned itself to block the hyperspace exit routes, trapping the entire attack fleet in the system. 300 ships faced a single human vessel, and somehow the humans had the advantage. "This is Commander Yunji of the Indomitable," came the calm voice that haunted Zethlos's nightmares. "You came here to commit genocide against innocent civilians. Instead, you will serve as a demonstration of why that was a mistake." The battle that followed was less a fight than an execution. The Indomitable's weapons systems, designed to engage multiple fleets simultaneously, turned the hegemony attack force into a shooting gallery. Ships that had never known defeat were swatted from space like insects. Zethlos watched his flagship's shields collapse under fire that seemed to come from every direction at once. As his ship began breaking apart around him, he transmitted a final message to any hegemony vessels that might escape. "This was never a war," he said into his communicator. "This was humanity showing us that they've been holding back. Tell the High Command. Tell them we never had a chance." His ship exploded moments later, taking with it the last pretense that the hegemony could match humanity's military capabilities. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Da-Un monitored the battles from her command center, watching as 8 human ships systematically dismantled the greatest military force the galaxy had ever assembled. The tactical displays showed complete human victory across all engagement zones. "Hegemony fleet strength is down to 15%, reported Major Jin Woo. "Survivors are requesting permission to surrender." "Granted," Da-Un said. "Signal all ships to accept unconditional surrender and begin rescue operations for surviving crews." Dr. Wu Jin watched the battle reports from Shipyard Titan, where construction of even more Colossus-class vessels continued around the clock. His creations had performed exactly as designed, proving that human military engineering could dominate any force the galaxy could assemble. But victory brought new challenges. The galaxy now knew that humanity possessed not one impossible ship, but an entire fleet of them. Every species would be forced to choose, accept human dominance or face the consequences of resistance. "Signal from the Hegemony High Command," announced a communications technician. "They're requesting immediate ceasefire and negotiations." Da-Un looked at the tactical display showing hegemony space under the guns of human warships. After 50 years of patient diplomacy and careful restraint, humanity had revealed its true capabilities in a single devastating demonstration. "Tell them we'll accept their surrender," she said. "But they'll negotiate from their knees, not from a position of strength." The age of human patience was over. The age of human dominance had begun. Across the galaxy, communication networks buzzed with reports of the impossible battles. Species that had dismissed humanity as primitive watched in horror as their strongest military force was destroyed by 8 ships, crewed by beings they had considered barely civilized. The balance of power that had shaped galactic politics for Centuries lay in ruins, replaced by a simple truth. Humanity had built weapons that made all other military forces obsolete. The galaxy would never sleep peacefully again, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, human ships patrolled with enough firepower to end worlds. The war was over before most species even knew it had begun. The surrender came exactly 18 hours after the first human ships had appeared in hegemony space. Supreme Commander Yothron, the proud military leader who had authorized Operation Cleansing Dawn, now knelt in his command center before a holographic image of Fleet Admiral Da-Un. "The hegemony accepts unconditional surrender," he said, his voice hollow with defeat. "We request mercy for our surviving personnel and civilian populations." Da-Un looked at the broken military commander with something approaching pity. 3. Centuries of galactic dominance had made the hegemony soft, unable to comprehend warfare beyond their own limited experience. "Your surviving ships will be escorted to designated neutral zones," she said. "Your military will be disbanded and restructured under human oversight. Reparations for damaged human colonies will be negotiated through the Galactic Confederation." "And our sovereignty?" Yothron asked. "Will depend entirely on your species' ability to coexist peacefully with your neighbors," Da-Un replied. "The days of hegemony aggression are over." The transmission ended, leaving Yothron staring at a blank screen. In less than a day, his civilization had fallen from galactic superpower to occupied territory. The most terrifying part was how easily humanity had accomplished it. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Confederation Council convened an emergency session for the third time in a week, but the tone was completely different from their previous meetings. Where once they had debated how to control humanity, now they scrambled to avoid becoming humanity's next target. Ambassador Yuna entered the chamber to find every seat filled and every eye focused on her. The same representatives who had once treated her like a junior member now rose respectfully as she passed. Fear was a powerful teacher. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Yuna of the Human Republic," announced Chancellor Mordan, his voice carefully neutral. Yuna took her position at the center of the chamber, a place traditionally reserved for species addressing the Council in supplication. Today she spoke from a position of absolute strength. "The Human Republic values its membership in the Galactic Confederation," she began. "We hope to continue our peaceful relationships with all member species under the new circumstances." "What new circumstances?" asked Representative Kethvar of the Trade Syndicate, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "The circumstances created when the hegemony attempted to commit genocide against human colonies," Yuna replied calmly. "Circumstances that revealed the complete inadequacy of Confederation security guarantees." The chamber fell silent. Every delegate understood the implications. Humanity no longer trusted the Confederation to protect human interests, which meant humanity would protect those interests themselves. "What does humanity require?" asked Chancellor Mordan. Yuna smiled. After 5 years of being ignored and dismissed, she was finally being asked the right question. Formal recognition of human territorial expansion rights, increased resource, allocations commensurate with our defensive contributions to galactic security, and permanent human representation on the Confederation Security Council. "Defensive contributions?" sputtered Admiral Veltar, though with much less confidence than he had shown a week earlier. "The galaxy is no longer protected by the balance of power between multiple species," Yuna explained. "It is protected by humanity's commitment to peaceful coexistence. We consider that a substantial contribution to galactic stability." The vote was unanimous. No species was willing to risk discovering what humanity considered an unacceptable response to diplomatic obstruction. Meanwhile, Captain Hyunwoo found himself in an unusual position aboard the human ship Determination. The Confederation officer, who had warned humanity about the hegemony attack, was now the first alien to serve in the Human Defense Force. Status report on the outer patrol sectors, requested Captain Jun Ho, the ship's commanding officer. Hyun Woo consulted his instruments, still amazed by the advanced sensor systems that made Confederation technology look primitive. All clear, sir. No unauthorized fleet movements detected. Good. The galaxy seems to be learning proper behavior. Hyun Woo nodded, though he wondered if what they were seeing was genuine peace or simply the paralysis of terror. Every major species was redesigning their military doctrines around the reality of human supremacy, but none had found solutions to the fundamental problem. Human ships were simply too powerful for traditional warfare. On Earth, Dr. Wu Jin stood in his expanded laboratory complex, reviewing plans for the next generation of human warships. The Colossus-class vessels had proven devastatingly effective, but he was already designing improvements based on battle data. The Titan-class specifications are complete, reported his assistant, Dr. Su Jin. Estimated completion time for the first vessel is 8 months. Wu Jin studied the blueprints for ships that would make the Colossus-class look modest by comparison, but he wondered if such massive firepower was still necessary. The galaxy had already learned to fear human military capabilities. Perhaps we should focus on defensive systems, he suggested. The galaxy might be more comfortable with humanity as protector rather than conqueror. Admiral Da Yun's orders are clear, Su Jin replied. Peace through overwhelming deterrence. The galaxy respects force, so we give them force they cannot ignore. Across human space, the expansion continued at a pace that amazed even human planners. Species that had once jealously guarded their territories now offered star systems to humanity in exchange for protection guarantees. The trade syndicate had restructured their entire economy around human military contracts, but not everyone adapted peacefully to the new order. On the frontier world of Distant Hope, a coalition of minor species attempted to establish an independence movement free from human influence. The rebellion lasted exactly 6 hours. The human response was swift, overwhelming, and precisely calculated to demonstrate the futility of resistance without causing unnecessary casualties. A single Colossus-class ship arrived in the system, disabled all hostile vessels with minimal damage, and departed after accepting the rebels' surrender. The message was clear. Humanity preferred peace, but was prepared for any alternative. Fleet. Admiral Da Yun walked through the corridors of humanity's new naval headquarters on Luna, past displays showing the current deployment of 43 Colossus-class vessels across known space. Each ship represented humanity's commitment to never again be threatened by species that mistook restraint for weakness. Long-range sensor reports, Admiral, announced Captain So Young, her aide and chief intelligence officer. Anything interesting? The collective is attempting to reverse engineer our technology. The trade syndicate is offering exclusive contracts to human manufacturers. 3 minor species have requested admission to something they're calling the Human Protection Zone. Dawan nodded. The galaxy was adapting to new realities with the same pragmatism that had allowed civilization to flourish for millennia. But now that civilization existed at humanity's pleasure, any signs of organized resistance? None worth mentioning. The destruction of the hegemony fleet seems to have convinced everyone that military opposition is futile. Da Yun looked out at the Earth, rising over Luna's horizon, thinking about the species that had dismissed humanity as primitive and backward. They had learned the difference between being primitive and being patient. Signal all fleet commanders, she ordered. Maintain current patrol schedules. The galaxy is still adjusting to the new order. In the depths of space, Dr. Wu Jin's creations moved through the darkness like mechanical gods, each one carrying enough destructive power to level civilizations. Their crews were drawn from a species that had spent centuries perfecting the art of warfare, and their presence ensured that no world would sleep soundly without human permission. The age of galactic balance was over. The age of human dominance had begun, and it would last as long as humanity chose to maintain it. Children across dozens of worlds looked up at stars that had once seemed distant and safe, now knowing that human ships moved through that darkness, with weapons that could crack planets. Some felt fear, others felt wonder, but all understood that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The universe had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their warships, but their willingness to build both in quantities that made resistance meaningless. The galaxy would never sleep peacefully again, knowing that somewhere in the void, humans stood watch with the power to end worlds and the wisdom to preserve them. Peace had returned to the galaxy, but it was humanity's peace, enforced by humanity's strength, and maintained by humanity's choice to be merciful rather than merely victorious.